Thank you, Ron. It is always a pleasure to present with Angel Beat. I don't know how many Angel Beats we presented with over the years, but we're always super pleased to be a sponsor and to present with you. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. I am accompanied by Jerry Meisner, who is our technical expert and has been in the cloud and hardware space for quite a long time. So we're excited to join you and present today. Ron has given us a nice introduction, so I won't spend too much time on who we are. That said, at Redapt, we're all about helping our clients accelerate their innovation efforts. We're a technology solutions provider focused on helping our clients navigate the ever-changing and complex landscape of enterprise technology. And we believe that highly successful organizations are those who adopt highly successful technologies. So we're Redapt. As Ron mentioned, our capabilities span solutions and services from hardware to cloud. We, we've kind of, our claim to fame, if you will, is bare metal to cloud. We really cover everything in between: app modernization, data, modern data centers, and business digital transformation. Our partner ecosystem is wide and diverse. AWS just gave us a lovely presentation, and we are proud to say that we are an AWS Advanced Tier Consulting Partner. Redapt is a Microsoft Gold partner as well as a Google Cloud Premier partner. We're also a Dell Titanium partner, which is a very coveted partnership level, and we have been the Partner of the Year for Dell 2 times over the course of our 25-year history. So we're very proud of all of our partnerships and all of the folks at Redapt who implement all of these different solutions and services. We've been in the hardware space for 25 years and the cloud space for 10 years, and we've helped enable businesses with their digital transformation for hundreds of different brands. You'll recognize some of the brands here, and we're located just outside of Seattle, which is one of the top cities for video game developers. And we've helped a number of video game and gaming industry experts with digital and solutions. So I'm going to turn it over to Jerry to talk about how we go about navigating the complications and the solutions that the video game industry needs.
Hello, I'm Jerry Meisner. I'm the DevOps practice lead at Redapt. I've been working with the various automation tools as well as orchestration platforms, including the cloud platforms and Kubernetes. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we've seen in the gaming industry and some of the ways that Redapt has kind of stepped in to help. So a lot of the times when you're moving to a cloud infrastructure, you're trying to take advantage of things like the ability to auto scale, various things like that. You also want to be able to roll out new features of your service and kind of replace the current instances that are running, things like that. Typically, in a gaming or streaming application, the primary challenge is to scale the connection. So you're not necessarily, bottlenecked on CPU or bottlenecked on memory. You're typically bottlenecked on client connections that are coming into your game servers or coming into some kind of network, service in between the game servers. Now, These present a challenge in the cloud landscape. You know, you can traditionally scale on CPU and memory. That's not a problem. Scaling on connection becomes to be a bit more of a custom metric scaling operation. The other thing that you kind of look at when you're talking about connections is you don't want to just allow pods to go away, or you don't want to allow virtual machines to just disappear. You want to be able to very kind of control which ones are disappearing and which ones are coming up based on how many connections they currently have. So you may put some into a draining state where you're waiting for those connections to be released and things like that. So one of the things that kind of we can help with on that front is working with you to kind of implement custom metrics of scaling within a virtual machine landscape. The other thing that we can do is build out Kubernetes operators. So if you're familiar with the Kubernetes orchestration platform, you may know that you can set up scaling rules for your pods within the cluster. We've worked with customers in the past to kind of set it up a custom operator that will bring up, you know, pods, one per node, and then every time they have a scaling event, they would add new nodes to the cluster, and then anytime they wanted to kind of start retiring things, the operator would go out and look for the instances that have the least amount of connections and start trying to, you know, schedule those to be removed at a later time. So a couple of different things we can do there. Obviously, having access to the cloud, you're kind of getting access for the first time to programmatic infrastructure in terms of being able to create everything from virtual machines to network interfaces, firewall rules, all through common APIs. And so having the ability to kind of get started in leveraging those things from the beginning is something that Redapt kind of assists with. So you can move to the next slide, Sarah. Another trend that we are seeing in the gaming industry is for gaming companies to kind of move to a SaaS model. So, you know, where you're providing a game service and allowing the gamers to essentially connect to the service. Maybe there's some in-game purchases and things like that they're kind of making to facilitate the cost on the backside. But when you're transitioning to a SaaS model, your scale when you're running could vary widely. Let me put it that way. So you could have, you know, a lot of users in the morning, less users in the afternoon, and more users in the evening. You could have holidays hit, and scale can be a little bit unpredictable. So being able to leverage cloud scale for SaaS solutions is something that is really important from a DevOps perspective. And we include, you know, rolling out new features, so being able to replace all the, you know, the game instances or the streaming servers that you're currently running with new features, and then patching any game-breaking bugs. So we feel that, you know, adopting modern DevOps practices will allow you to do both of these things more efficiently and without a lot of human interaction. You'll notice that a lot of the competitors, or at least a lot of the players in the gaming industry, are already doing this SaaS model, and they're already pushing potentially weekly updates to their games or weekly updates to their systems. Okay, you can go to the next slide, please, Sarah. So when offering a SaaS solution to gamers, again, you're going to encounter varieties of scale and capacity, and simply lifting and shifting your apps to VMs in the cloud is not going to take advantage of everything it has to offer. So you're, you know, thinking about just kind of migrating this set of 20 virtual machines. This is what's been able to handle our capacity in the past. But if you're not utilizing all 20 of those, then you're leaving some costs and some, you know, some money on the table. However, being able to scale back down and scale up dynamically as load kind of increases and decreases is a way to save money and kind of make the most out of those in-game purchase dollars that the end users are going to be deploying. Okay, we can go to the next slide here, Sarah. So when we talk about adoption of DevOps best practices, you know, what are we talking about here? We're generally be talking about implementing, you know, modern CI/CD tools, modern monitoring solutions, as well as having some disaster recovery failover plans in place. So if something does happen to a specific cloud region, you know, having the ability to stand up your infrastructure in another region really quickly, leveraging automation, infrastructure as code, is going to be crucial in that regard. When we're talking about things like Kubernetes, so if you want to leverage Kubernetes, monitoring, some monitoring platforms have been pre-built for that. So if you're leveraging a managed Kubernetes service, you'll have some of that integration already with the cloud, but we would help work with teams to kind of make sure that they're logging per best practices, including like pushing things to standard out, making sure that any kind of log files from the legacy application might be able to be captured as well. From a disaster and recovery solution, we can do traditional VMs as well. So when you're talking about having a infrastructure as code and having some replicating data sources and things like that, we could have a couple of commands to run on Terraform or Ansible to configure a failover region, or passive active or an active failover region for your environments as well. The infrastructure as code really ties all of this stuff together. So being able to define your pipelines as code, being able to define the virtual machines or the Kubernetes deployments as code when you're in that aspect, and then being able to not only define all those things, but the actual infrastructure, the network, the subnets, the firewall rules, all the things that you need to do as part of bringing up a new environment defined as code, gives you the ability to kind of rapidly move through these paces. So we're expecting, if you're adopting modern DevOps practice, that you're going to be able to be more efficient with pushing out new releases. They're going to be more successful in terms of, pushing out code that breaks something. You're going to be less likely to do that as long as you have some really good testing and integration strategy prior to, your deployment to production, if you will. We also believe that, adopting platforms on top of platforms. So when you're talking about AWS or GCP or Azure, they all have the AKS, GKE, EKS. We recommend to leverage those platforms if possible, for the sole reason that you may want to do a more of a hybrid solution where maybe you're running some workloads on-prem and some workloads in the cloud, but kind of solidifying around something like Kubernetes brings all those operations kind of tasks under a single umbrella. That way you don't have to have folks who are skilled in the VM data center world and folks who are skilled in the Kubernetes world. You can kind of have Kubernetes everywhere, and then just have somebody who's really knowledgeable on kind of managing the infrastructure of Kubernetes. That's it from my side, Sarah. You want to go ahead and move to the next slide and pick back up?
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much, Jerry. So, at Redapt, we are firm believers in our transformation framework, also known as our tech evolution playbook. We at Redapt really, work with our clients to kind of understand where they're at in this technical journey and how to, establish and execute and transform your business digital transformation efforts, so that way you're evolving at the pace that your users are evolving. We have a tech evolution playbook that can help you support your infrastructure and migration goals. We are happy to kind of go through an evaluation with you and perform an assessment to help you understand where you're at in your digital transformation and how do you get where you're going. And that kind of wraps up our presentation for today. Ron, any questions?